So, I know what you're thinking. Well, that looks alright. Maybe I should just stop there. And you're probably right. You could probably just stop there. Because it looks okay, you can sort of see the dust. The stars have come through quite nicely. You can see some of the detail. We've got rid of most of the gradients, and it's quite dark around the edges. So yeah, it looks pretty good. But there are some other things you can do to really bring out some of the elements of these photographs, and I think it's worth doing, because ultimately it gets a better result. So what we're going to do is we're going to start to try and bring up this dusty stuff here, all of the dust planes and everything else. So what you want to do is go to your layers here, and your background layer. We can't actually do any masking with the background layer because it's the original layer. So what we have to do is we have to copy it, and what I do is I just grab the layer, drag it down to that icon, the second to right icon there, and that will give us a copy. So there's two of the same, they're both the same. Now what we want to do is, whilst we're clicking on that second copy, go to where is it now? Select all, edit, copy. Now whilst still clicking on the copied layer, drop down here and we can see this little box with a circle in it. Click on that, and that will give us put up a layer mask for us. And layer masks with astrophotography are very, very important. They are the bread and butter of astrophotography, because with layer masks you can hide certain images that you don't want coming through, and you can bring other parts of the image that you do want coming through, and you can exaggerate colours, and you can do all sorts. So it's really important that you understand about layer masks. I'm not going to go into the details of it because we'll be here all day. All I'm going to show you is what I do. So once we've got the layer mask there, we're going to hit the Alt button, which is on the Mac. I don't know what it is on the Windows operating system, but on the Mac it's Alt, and then we'll click on the box, and that'll give us the blank canvas, if you like. And then we want to do paste, so we go to edit, paste, and that will give us the monochromatic image. And then we want to go to image, where is it now? Inverse. Sorry, actually, no. Do you know what? Just on the Mac it's Command I, and that will invert the image. I don't know what it is on. It might be Control I on the XP. And the reason why we do that is because we just want to focus on the nebulosity, if you like. We don't want to excite the stars. We don't want to excite we don't want the background to come through. We just want the nebulosity, and as you can see here, it's kind of there. We can sort of see it. So now that that's done, we want to temporarily hide that layer mask. So hold down Shift and click on it. You can also right click on it and go to enable or disable the layer mask, but for now we'll just hit disable, and then we'll go back to our image. So whilst we're still on this layer copy, we want to then click on the copied image, And right, so now we're on that, we want to go to filter, noise, dust and scratches. Now the reason why we do this, we just want to filter out as much of the stars and everything else, just leaving us with the nebulosity. We can still sort of see the dust planes there, and and whatever else. There's a little bit of star, but that's not too much of an issue right now. I've got it set to radius 54. You can play around with it. I mean, if you look there, as I drag it down, the image starts to really come into. You can start to see everything else. We don't want that. We want as much of it washed out as possible, just leaving the nebulosity. So I've moved it up to 52, I think that was, or 54. Yeah, 55. That'll do. Yeah, okay. Then we've got to wait for it to do its stuff. And this particular filter is quite a tasking sort of process, so the computer will probably take some time to do it. And we're done. Okay, so once that's done, we want to go to the blending mode. Now obviously that's selected as normal at the moment, so there's your blending mode tab here, and go down to screen. And as you can see, all of the dust and everything, it's really started to come out of the picture. So we'll enable that layer mask, and whilst we're clicking on the actual layer mask, not the image, the actual layer mask there, go down here to the there's like a little circle with a split in the middle, a white and black split. Click on that and go back up to levels. We just want to reduce the contrast a little bit of that dust. That looks about right. So, when you're happy with it, move it towards the data. There's no real exact science to this bit. It's more just the image as you see it. If you think that you could probably do with moving it a little bit more or whatever, then by all means go for it. But I've moved it to there. We can still see the dust here, and a bit of the running man there. So I'd say we're pretty much ready to go with that. So what we want to do is right click on the third layer there and go to merge down. Now if I just hide that layer, you can really see how it's increased the nebulosity in that photo. A substantial amount actually. But we're not finished just yet. What we want to do now is, we'll hit merge down again. Sorry, we'll go back there. That's not what I wanted to do. So, sorry, yeah, right. So now we're at this point. Go to the your original copy and drag that back down to that box, the second to right box there, to create another copy of that, and then again click on the top one and merge down. So we've got that layer, which is your dusty layer there, which you can see all that dust, and the original layer, which is the one without. So now that we've got that one, we want to create another 2 copies of the second layer here. So again, drag it down to that one there, and again, copy again. Now this is really just to add a little bit of extra luminance to the photo without distorting it, distorting the colours, because that's often the problem when you start using curves and everything else, and playing around with the colours and everything else. It starts to really distort the image and you start to lose a lot of quality. So once we've got to that point, we want to change the top one. Go to the blending mode up here. The top one needs to be on luminosity, so go down here, luminosity, and the middle one needs to be on soft light. And as you can see, just from that alone, it's really bringing out the colours of that photo. So again, select all those 3 and merge the layers. And as you can see, if we just flip between the 2, turn it off and on, you can really see how the colours come out, the nebulosity has come out, and it's really starting to come together as a photo. So now that we've got to that point, it might be worth just going to the curves and just playing around with the contrast a little bit, getting the dark a little bit darker. It's also worth using this little hand here. Click on that and you can see, if we click here, it tells you exactly where it is, that type of area on the actual curve. So if we want to start to darken that, then we want to bring that area down there. So if we just drop it down a little bit, you can start to see those. Okay, I think that's better. Maybe just take that down as well, just to take the core out a little bit, because the core's a little bit, on this one, it's a little bit blown out, so you can probably just drop that down a touch, because that's where it was before, so we just take that down a little bit there, and okay. So as you can see, we can still see the dust planes there, we can see all of everything's nice and dark around the edges. There's probably a little bit of a gradient there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just again use the clone stamp tool, hit the Alt key there, and then just get rid of it, because you don't really need it there. It's not a necessity, it's not something that we should have really. It just makes, when you start to play around with the image a little bit more, it really brings it out. So we're pretty much at the final stages of the finished product here. One last thing that we should do is a high pass filter. A high pass filter, it just exaggerates certain features of the photograph without using the sharpening tool, because I think the sharpening tool really makes it look a little bit wrong. There's no other way to describe it really. So what we'll do is we'll create a copy of the layer copy, again dragging it down to this box here on the right. And on that one we want to go to filter, other, high pass. Now as you can see, that looks really weird. At this stage it's all about playing with the settings. There's no right or wrong. If we go like that, I mean, you can really see the image. What we want to do is we want to exaggerate the fine details in that nebulosity. So I'm going to go with 9, between 9 and 15 maybe. I mean 15 is probably, we could probably get away with 15, but I'm going to stick with around 9.3, 9.5, okay, and we'll hit OK. Now, again, go to your blending mode, and this is something which you can sort of really play around with. If we hit overlay, you know, you can sort of see how it's bringing out the detail a little bit, but you know, it's nothing crazy. It's not really done much. So we'll go down to hardline. Now that's really starting to bring out the detail a little bit, but the problem with this is it's starting to bring out too much of the stars. We don't want that. So what we can do is we can use a hide all layer mask. I'm just going to have a look through here and see if there's any other ones that are any better. I don't know whether that vivid light is better actually. That's just too much. I mean, have a play around, you know. I mean, that one's just we're never gonna get anywhere with that one. I think hard light's the best option. So we've got that layer there. What we want to do is we want to use a hide all layer mask. So we go to layer, layer mask, hide all. Now, again, this is where your knowledge of layer masks and stuff like that is down to you really. I'm not going to go into it too much because we'll be here all day. But what I will say is, I think it's something like black conceals, white reveals. That's the phrase that everyone seems to use. And what I will say is, it's a learning curve which I went through a lot with this, is make sure that you are actually clicking on the layer mask box, not the you know, as you can see here, I'm clicking on the high pass filter. You don't want to be clicking on that, you want to be clicking on the layer mask box. So go to your brush, maybe select, I don't know, 200 diameter, 200 pixels. Just start. You can start to see the detail come out a little bit there. It's very subtle, just in the areas where the nebulosity is. You don't want to do the dust too much because the dust is, we like that looking a bit wispy anyway. Maybe the running man there will just do some of that as well. But what you'll notice is, as you're doing this, you'll notice that some of the stars are starting to look a bit blown out and starting to look a bit too defined. I also like to, if there's any diffraction spikes, I like to exaggerate them a little bit just by going around the outside so that they look a little bit, you know, you can see the definition of the diffraction spikes. So I'd say we're pretty much there, but there's the issue of these stars here. They're all got a bit too much definition on them, so we're going to select the smaller mass and diameter brush, and we're just going to change the layer mask. So we're going to go the not the white reveals but the black conceals, and we're just going to go back over those stars. It's a painstakingly slow process, but believe me, it's worth it. I don't think we have to worry too much about the small, really small ones, but just them big ones. Just reduce them down a little bit. It's the attention to detail in these photographs that, you know, separates your images from everyone else's. I'd say that's looking pretty good. And you could probably do another high pass filter. Maybe let's try it. Let's try it again. Let's merge them down. Merge the layers. Again, drag that down here. High pass filter. And we'll just go for maybe a finer, or yeah, we'll bump it up a little bit. That's looking a bit too sharp there. So again, we'll go with the layer mask. Black concealed, white reveals. You can see the black there, so we'll change that to white. And again, we'll just it's very subtle, but it makes all the difference. And I think we're done. There you have it. New Orion Nebula. You can see all of the dust there. You can see the stars. You can see the diffraction spikes. You can see a lot of detail. And it's nice and dark, and we've got rid of all of them. That's the gradients. So I hope this helps you guys out, and thanks for watching. See you soon.